Hi there, luxury watch lovers. In this channel, I cover the background, fundamental design features, and things to consider before buying your watch. If you have a luxury watch that you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments below. In today's video, we're going to cover the Audemars Piguet Code 11.59 Flyback Chronograph. This watch doesn't reveal everything at first. It teases you and will only offer you the best it has if you go beyond the first impression. Show it a bit of interest and it will reward you with its true, detailed, and superbly executed nature. An object that is far more complex than you'd expect it to be. Jules-Louis Audemars and Edward Auguste Piguet founded the brand in the Swiss Vallée de Joux in 1875. And over the next 100 years, some of the most prestigious and sought-after Haute Horlogerie creations emerged from a factory capable of producing some of the most complex and distinguished watches. The mental liberation that occurred in the late 1960s and early 1970s had an impact on the brand, and in 1972, the Royal Oak was created, a watch that would forever change the face of this watchmaking company. While it was not an immediate success, this watch gradually became a hit, a cult object, and the brand's main strength, and ironically, its main weakness. Audemars Piguet now takes a bold and modern approach to Haute Horlogerie, as evidenced by this Code 11.59. The basic idea was to reintroduce the classic round watch into AP's collection while maintaining a modern, younger approach for a less traditional clientele. The brand's small, conservative dress watch doesn't work, and Code 11.59 represents a new vision of a modern classic. However, this watch is more than just a round case. Audemars Piguet is a brand with a distinct identity based primarily on the shape of a specific case. However, reducing the brand to just that would just be an insult to the exceptionally desirable watches that the brand has created, including many grand complications, perpetual calendars, and chronographs, some of which have been revived in the newly introduced models. The brand's latest collection couldn't possibly just be a shape. It had to be a collection of details, savoir-faire, and a showcase of what AP can do in terms of dial making, watch design, and of course, movement making. When you handle an Audemars Piguet Code 11.59 example, you realize that it must be explored, deciphered, and observed. Only from afar does this watch appear classic. Yes, this is a chronograph, but its movement is cutting edge. Let's look at some of the design features. On this exquisite watch, we're looking at a case size of 41mm and a lug width of 12.6 mm. The Code 11.59 has an in-house integrated automatic flyback chronograph, the AP caliber 4401. The deep blue dial is lacquered with multiple layers and a polished finish, and it is protected by its double-curved crystal. It has an audacious hand-stitched blue alligator strap. As a dress watch, we can understand its water resistance of 30 meters. And to top it all off, it has a very impressive price of about $49,449. Here are 4 things to consider before buying the Audemars Piguet Code 11.59 Flyback Chronograph. Starting with number 1, an extremely detailed case. Code 11.59 resembles a handsome Harvey Two-Face. The watch reveals 2 distinct personalities depending on the angle. The case is round from the top with a large dial opening and almost no bezel. Its lugs appear to be quite simple as well. It would be reductive to end the investigation of this case here. This watch must be viewed from an angle that corresponds to the natural view of this watch when worn on the wrist. And then you'll come across sides that are extremely detailed, complex, and even intriguing. To pay homage to the royal oak, the central container of code 11.59, which is the part that sits between the bezel and the case back and holds the movement, is octagonal in shape, a subtle nod to what has made the brand so iconic over the past 48 years. This central container has been finely brushed and polished with sharp facets and clean separations between various finishes. Something that gives this watch its DNA, its personality, but in a subtle, elegant way. The lugs are hollowed and finished with a brushed surface and complex polished bevels as part of an element that also includes the bezel. The screw heads are hexagonal for visual effect, which is another nod to the hexagonal screws on the royal oak. Looking at these details provides a completely different perspective on the case. The case sits well on the wrist, with some presence, but it also has great comfort thanks to the strap's positioning, allowing the entire watch to hug the wrist. It is only available in 18-karat gold, white, or pink. Some variations in two-tone or other materials will definitely be introduced in the future. Overall, the case's execution is impressive, detailed, and in line with what you'd expect from Audemars Piguet. The surface decoration is extremely precise and neat, adding to the overall luxurious feeling. Moving on to number 2, the crystal. The second element in code 11.59 is particularly important. Its crystal is made by Audemars Piguet. There is a lot to discover here. From the top, nothing particularly noteworthy occurs, except for its large diameter and expansive view of the large dial. But if you rotate the watch again, something happens. Code 11.59 has a double curved crystal. It has a classic convex circular shape on the inside, but it also curved from 12 to 6 on the outside. A highly complex element with two distinct manifestations. For starters, the convex shape reduces deformations and provides an undistorted view of the dial, even at extreme angles. Secondly, because both the outer and inner surfaces are curved, there is a magical optical effect. And this is known as a diffraction grating that animates the watch in a truly unusual but fascinating way. Taking a closer look at number 3, the deep blue lacquered dial. Code 11.59's discreet and slightly shy nature by Audemars Piguet, in the sense that it does not reveal everything at first glance, is also applicable when inspecting the dial. The chronograph, which is inherent to this type of watch, adds complexity to the display, which is simplistic on the 3-hand model. It's more animated, more complex, and has more depth and surfaces for playing with light. The Audemars Piguet self-winding chronograph is only available with dark tone dials, either pitch black or the current deep blue color. The dial has a glossy mirror-like surface that is obtained from the lacquer, which requires 8 to 12 layers as shown in our photos. The dial is hand lacquered and hand polished, resulting in a flawless, smooth surface that does not have an orange peel effect. Now, lacquer was not the easiest material to work with because the surface is easily scratched and many dials are rejected during production. But it is a complicated process that yields a lively dial that changes from light grey blue to almost pitch black. The layout is traditional for a chronograph with a 3-6-9 layout, slightly oversized chronograph counters, and smaller running seconds. A date window is set at 4:30, which corresponds to the watch's daily vocation. The sub-counters are framed by a metallic ring and have a matte surface, which adds contrast and animation to the dial. Despite their simple shapes, the hands, which are all made of 18-karat white gold, have beautiful rounded and polished surfaces. The same can be said for the baton indexes, which are simple but elegantly executed. However, the hands are probably the only thing that I would criticize. The minute hand is thinner than the hour hand, and it is sometimes difficult to see, or you can get confused with the central chronograph seconds hand. Two aspects of this dial are particularly noteworthy. The first is the 12 indexes, which are raised and shaped to match the curvature of the crystal. The second feature is the logo, which is applied to the dial and is made in 24-karat gold using a galvanic growth process, which is the only way to achieve such thin letters. Finally, the dial, which almost entirely covers the surface of the watch, is framed by a raised and lacquered inner flange printed with a tachymeter scale, giving the impression of depth once more. And last but definitely not least, number 4, the state-of-the-art chronograph movement. The much anticipated in-house integrated automatic chronograph movement has arrived. Audemars Piguet relied on two types of calibers for its automatic chronograph watches for many years. The first was a modular architecture based on the caliber 3120 with the caliber 3126, which was primarily found in the Royal Oak Offshore collection. The caliber 2385 was the second movement, an integrated automatic chronograph movement based on the not-so-modern Frédéric Piguet 11.59 Flyback. Collectors and enthusiasts expected more from Audemars Piguet in the form of a self-developed and self-manufactured integrated chronograph movement, given the brand's prestige. And it made it onto the case of the Audemars Piguet Code 11.59 self-winding chronograph. The caliber 4401 is a modern architecture, an integrated automatic chronograph built as a whole, rather than as an assembly of a three-hand movement and a chronograph module, because of all the parts that are seamlessly integrated. It also makes use of the best options for actuating its chronograph functions, such as a column wheel and a vertical clutch, allowing for a precise start of the chronograph function while avoiding the jump of the chronograph seconds hand when the teeth mesh. The hammers and springs responsible for resetting the hands are also uniquely positioned on a horizontal axis in this movement. In addition, caliber 4401 has a flyback function. This, also known as retour en vol in French, allows the chronograph to be reset to 0 and restarted instantly with a single push of the 4 o'clock button. This feature enables quick retiming without the need to press the buttons 3 times in a row to stop, reset, and start the chronograph. Aside from the chronograph functions, this new Audemars Piguet movement focuses on chronometric precision with a transversal balance bridge rather than a balance cock, a large balance wheel with increased inertia, and 6 adjustment weights. The movement operates at 4 Hz and has a large barrel with a power reserve of 70 hours. The movement's design and decoration are so appealing. Straight and circular satin brushing, Geneva stripes, and perlage are used on both sides of the bridges, including the hidden areas. The bridges have large chamfers and are diamond polished to perfection. The 22-karat gold rotor is open-worked with the AP logo, providing an excellent view of the mechanism. And this wraps up my review of Audemars Piguet Code 11.59 Flyback Chronograph. Thank you for watching this video. Nothing helps my channel more than you watching until the very end. If you enjoy this type of content, make sure to let me know in the comments below. And remember, time is your greatest asset.